Simon, can you sit down, please? Hey. Can you sit down, please? Good boy. Hey, Hazel. Alright. So, for today's video, what I wanted to focus on is some realistic tips for beginning to make more sustainable choices and practice more awareness and learn more about living sustainably and ways to reuse and repurpose things and that kind of stuff. Tip number 1. Focus on small habit changes. What do I mean by that? Take note of how you shop and how often. Are you ordering stuff online constantly? If you have another feasible option. That's the thing, is I think a lot of kind of sustainability or green living type of content doesn't take into account, or often doesn't take into account, not always. Some people don't have access to anything beyond like Amazon and Walmart and maybe like a local grocery store. There are places in America where that's the only option. So telling people not to shop at Walmart or not to shop at Amazon only really works if they have other choices. Regardless of where you shop or how you shop or what you shop for, try to look for things with less plastic packaging. Not no plastic packaging necessarily, at least to begin with, but you know, if you can buy fresh produce without a bag, you don't have to necessarily use a produce bag for, say, if you want to get some apples. Just get some loose apples, put them in your cart, put them in your grocery bag. You don't necessarily need a produce bag there. You should be washing your fruit anyway. Wash your produce, please. Cool. And yeah, in general, just when you're shopping, just try to start consciously making an effort to consider whether there's another option if you're going to buy something online, for example. Or, you know, if you're going to buy something at the grocery store and there's a bulk option that you could get more of for a lower price, that's great too. Tip number 2, track what and when you cook, if you cook. A lot of people can't cook, and that's not really a design related skill, but it is a sustainability and DIY related skill. So if anyone would like some basic recipes for beginner cooks, I'd be happy to put together a collection of those. I could probably come up with about 5 off the top of my head. So yeah, track what and when you cook. This will kind of help you establish eating patterns and help you establish kind of how often you need what staples and what staples you go through the most, or what staples you should have on hand the most. And that can kind of help to inform a basic grocery list. Like, some people have weekly grocery shopping, some people have bi-weekly grocery shopping. My husband and I buy groceries about every week and a half or so. We also order food a little more often than we should, although we've been cutting back on that recently significantly for budgetary and health reasons, obviously.
One thing that I wanted to note is that if, like us, you have fallen into a bit of a bad takeout habit and have an established pantry that you have been neglecting, you can kind of take an inventory and do a pantry clean out challenge where you do like a low buy or a no buy of groceries, and over a period of like maybe 2 weeks to a month, depending on the size of your household and what's in your pantry, try and clear it out. Figure out what you use stuff that you've been hoarding for way too long. So much red quinoa, I accidentally bought 2 pounds and we've used 4 ounces of it. So, or wait, 8 ounces? what is math anymore? Anyway, so yeah, I pulled everything out of the pantry, cleaned all the shelves, accounted for everything, crossed out things have since been used up. And I bake a lot, so I happen to have a lot of different baking and cooking supplies. We also cook a lot of like Asian and Mexican food. So we have different types of oils and vinegars and stuff. Once you have stock of your pantry, you can kind of shop your stash in a way, but of food, and figure out what you've got in your fridge to cook with it. And I also reorganized my pantry while I was at it. It's just in an upper cabinet right now because we don't have an actual proper pantry. But this way we can see almost everything. Obviously we're low on canned stuff, but we have a bunch of dried beans that need to get used up. So I want to focus on that before I buy more canned beans. We also have a ton of popcorn. Obviously we don't have to use that up, but I have it at the front so that we remember to make it for like snacks and movie nights and stuff. And then we have all of the oils and all of that. Yeah, I guess one tip would be having your pantry items kind of either on display or easily accessible like this if you don't really care how it looks. We're going to have to remodel this kitchen, and as you can see, we don't even have cabinet doors on them. They were orange when we moved in, and we slapped some green paint on it so it was less offensive, just so our eyes could bear. And so we're living with this for now. And this doesn't bother us. But if it bothers you, just keep your pantry items organized in a way that you'll make use of it often. Everybody's broke, but sometimes you're too stressed out and tired to cook, and you order some Hawaiian food. One benefit to living in a place like Portland is that they now have an option when you do order food that you have to choose whether or not you want utensils. So for instance, like if a place gives out, plastic cutlery or chopsticks, something like that, we have cutlery, we have some chopsticks at home, so we always click the no cutlery option because we don't need more of it. Boom, right there, that's less plastic that we are consuming. It's still gonna get consumed, but it's not gonna end up in our garbage, Like, it's one less thing that we have to worry about being the end consumers of. And plus, we don't really use plasticware anyway. We have some that we've gotten from places before, or if they, didn't ask. I'm using some of them for plant steaks. They come in really handy for that. Another way that tracking what and when you cook can be helpful is if you find yourself using a lot of, for example, the same vegetables over and over again, and you have access to outdoor space or even just like a windowsill where you can grow some stuff, you can regrow some vegetables. And that's pretty common knowledge, things like celery and green onions and that kind of thing, and basil and cilantro and herbs and stuff. But if you have a little bit of outdoor space, even like a vertical outdoor space, you might even be able to start growing some stuff that you use more often. And ultimately, that's, less consuming. It saves you money, and you learn a valuable skill, which is awesome. If you can start growing some of your food, that, like I said, it has the added benefit of learning a new skill. And if you want to try and regrow something from groceries, it's already going to be waste anyway. So either you throw it away or you try to regrow it and see what happens. And then if nothing happens, you throw it away then. But if it works, boom, you grew a new vegetable. All right, tip number 3, shop secondhand. For some reason, a lot of people still have issues with shopping secondhand, and I don't know why that is. I have theories. They have to do with consumer capitalism and cynicism about it. But shopping secondhand is fine, and you can find a lot of awesome stuff. It contributes less to fast fashion, which is great. A lot of people will say, buy sustainable
buy from sustainable brands. But in order for those brands to make money, and in order for them to make the kind of quality that they do, the prices are out of reach for most people, frankly. Especially if you have kids. I don't have kids. It's just me, my husband, and the dogs. So no, that's not realistic for a lot of people. Yeah, so shop secondhand. Because here's the thing. Whatever you buy, you should be washing when you bring it home anyway, whether it's new or not. Clothing from like a chain store or a fast fashion store or even like a Nordstrom or whatever, they come straight from factories and they get unloaded from trucks straight onto the sales floor. They do not get washed. So you should be washing your clothing when you bring it home before you wear it, regardless of where it came from. Tip number 4, don't go out and buy a bunch of reusable stuff right away. Like I was talking about earlier with the whole greenwashing consumerism side of things. You can often make use of some stuff that you might have on hand, or if you do order takeout, most of the takeout places around us use reusable packaging or compostable packaging. Again, that's a benefit of living in a place like Portland. Not everybody is going to have access to that, but we often get takeout containers that are like black on the bottom with a clear lid, or like Indian food comes in those round plastic containers that have lids that seal pretty decently. So we'll keep those to reuse as Tupperware. Here we have an example of reusing takeout containers. We have several of these from various like Chinese and Hawaiian places. And then these are the ones that I was talking about. Indian food very often comes in these here. These short ones and the tall ones are so handy for storing like sauces or cut vegetables or leftovers or what have you. They're very handy. We also have I think this was a lunch meat container, I believe, but we use this for dog stuff. In addition to that, you can reuse plastic bags if you live in a place with plastic grocery bags. We always used to keep them and use them to line our bathroom and bedroom garbage bins. Right there, second life, second use. You can keep produce bags if you use those. Again, you don't have to go out and buy reusable ones. You can just not use produce bags. But if you want to buy reusable ones, they sell them in a lot of grocery stores. So you don't have to order them online necessarily. You could buy them right there and then use them for your grocery shopping. Either way, if you have the plastic ones, yeah, use them for garbage. We sometimes have plastic Target bags. Mostly they're paper, but they completely ran out of paper bags recently. And so we ended up with a plastic one. And when we get sturdier plastic bags like that, we'll use them for donations, because oftentimes we'll kind of go through our stuff and end up having a few items here or there to donate. And rather than having them just sit around, we can put them in one of those bags. It stays separate from our stuff. It doesn't get covered in dog hair. And then it's easy and ready to go. When it fills up, we can just pick it up and grab it and go and donate it. So the whole plastic guilt, I'm not a fan of, because it's a part of our reality, and that is a problem that needs solving on a macro scale. And individual consumer culpability for macroscopic issues is not something that I'm a fan of. There's a balance to be struck. And if you live in a place where finding sustainable options isn't an option, or you just do not have the brain space or the energy, worry about this later, if at all. You can also reuse paper grocery bags. We try to use reusable grocery bags, but forget them often. And living in Portland, if you don't have a grocery bag, they just charge you 5 cents for a paper one. And typically we can get away with only using 1 or 2, if that's the case. And we keep them for our recycling. They're also great for storing kindling. We have a fire pit out back. Obviously, you only need one at a time for that, but that's another thing that they're good for. They're good for lining gardens, actually. If you build a raised garden bed, they're great for lining the bottom. Look around for any random bags you might already have around the house that you can use for groceries. Oftentimes, people will have like leftover totes from high school or college. A lot of workplaces will give out bags, you know. If you've ever been to a parade of any kind or some kind of industry party, you might already have one, and then you don't have to go spend money on a reusable grocery bag. Win-win. Fifth and final tip, buy in bulk if you can. More and more grocery stores have bulk options these days, or bulk sections or bulk aisles, and if there are certain staples that you buy pretty often, like rice or flour or pasta even, or like oats, oftentimes you can find those for cheaper per ounce in the bulk section, and then you're also using less packaging. You can buy more at once and spend the same amount of money for more product, so your money goes farther. You can also buy smaller amounts for individuals, and that's something I think people don't often take into account, is so many of these tips are for big families, or even just families of 4 or more, honestly. Like, between 2 humans in this house, we eat an astonishing amount of food. So that multiplied over more people, yeah, you gotta buy in bulk. But another reason that the bulk section is great is because you can get small quantities. So often there will be a specific ingredient that you need for a recipe, for example, something that might not be present in a basic pantry, depending on how established you are and what your cultural foods are. So you can buy smaller quantities too. Here in Portland, and I know in a couple of states, we have Winco, which is amazing, and they have a huge bulk section, and they have a bulk spice section. So you can go and get just the amount of spices that you need for a recipe, or if you have spice jars and you need to refill them, you don't have to throw them away. You can go and get some more at the store and refill that container, which is awesome. In addition to that, you can expand your collection through an herb and spice bulk section, for example. If you want to start expanding your palette, if you've been cooking more basic stuff and you just want to try new flavors, you can get a small quantity of some different flavors and try them out. And then you haven't spent a whole bunch of money on something you might not end up liking, or that might not work with your palate, or that you might even be allergic to. And then you haven't wasted a bunch of money on food you can't eat. We're losing light, so I'm going to make this quick. In conclusion, if sustainable living or green living, or whatever you want to call it, if that's something that you've been wanting to try out but it seemed overwhelming or expensive or impossible, I hope that some of these tips have helped you. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I do, stuff that I started doing a long time ago that have now become regular habits, and so I don't have to think about them as much, and I can then put more energy into things like learning how to garden and grow vegetables. Once you get to a place where you've established habits, you don't have to put effort into doing those tasks anymore. They're just kind of innate, they're second nature. So you just build small habits over time, and eventually you're doing a bunch of new stuff, and you look back and you're like, holy crap, I never thought I could do this, and here you are doing it. Same goes for a lot of stuff in life, honestly. It can feel insurmountable at times to take on a task or a life change, or feel like you have to go all or nothing. You really don't, and all or nothing tends to burn a lot of people out and overwhelm a lot of people. So if you can incorporate small changes over a long period of time, they're more likely to stick. because it's less likely to feel like you're punishing yourself. It's more likely to, you're more likely to see the benefits more clearly because you're not focusing so hard on trying to do the thing perfectly. Yeah. That about does it. Please subscribe. That'd be great. Trying to build something here, and that requires an audience. So if you like what you see, maybe stick around. Hit the like so I know you liked it. And let me know down below if you have any suggestions for videos kind of in this vein, in this genre, that you would like to see. I'd be curious to know what people want. So, yeah, thanks. Bye.